the profession or the location? So I know that sometimes we can, as educators, start to feel like we are drowning in overwhelm. We can start to feel like as educators like we're just drowning in a sea of responsibilities, in a sea of paperwork, and like there's absolutely no end to it. And so I want to talk today and ask the question, is it really the profession? Because so many teachers are jumping ship, they're leaving the profession, they're going to do something else, but you can feel a lot of angst about it. And so, is it really the profession that has you feeling the way that you're feeling, or is it the location? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And so, I want to talk about my own story of burnout. And as I was teaching, as I was an administrator, oftentimes I would feel like I don't know if I can do this anymore because there's so much paperwork. The job has changed from what it was when I got in 20 years ago. There's now more discipline issues. There's now more paperwork. There's now more of everything. There's more negativity. And so for me, what changed was moving abroad and going to a place, having a conversation, having lots of conversations with other people who had taken that journey, and just hearing about how their attitudes had changed about their jobs and about all of the benefits they were getting, and this whole kind of um, reignition of their love for education. Because let's be honest, when you are drowning in overwhelm, when you are feeling burned out, it can kind of mask the joy that you normally feel. The things that used to bring you joy about your job don't bring you joy anymore when you're feeling burned out all the time. And so, if you're going through that, it is very easy to think that maybe I just need to not be a teacher anymore. I need to not be a principal, assistant principal, counselor. I just need to get out. I've heard so many people say, I can't do this anymore. And so, what I suggest first is that you start reflecting on why you are feeling that way. Like, really pinpoint what is it about your job right now that has you feeling like you can't do it, like you can't, go on this way. Is it the paperwork? Is it just one thing that has happened? Hi, Yesenia, I see you. Is it one thing that has happened, or is it just the same thing happening over and over again? Because I know teachers have different pain points than administrators, than counselors. When I was a teacher, it was sometimes working with administration that didn't seem to respect um, a teacher's time, who seemed to be loading on a lot of unnecessary um, extra jobs, who were not planning well, so that we didn't plan well, like giving us things at the last minute. That was very stressful. Not understanding when kids are put into your classroom, um, and schedules are changed, just you don't feel like you have any control over your day. And top that with dealing with more behavior issues, and not feeling like you're getting support. So that's, on the teacher side. And then on the administration side, you kind of feel like you are working for the DA. Like you are constantly having to, at least in the secondary level, I can't speak for elementary because I've always worked in the high school setting, but I know, as an assistant principal, as a principal, you feel like you are working for CSI. There is constantly an investigation: who's doing drugs, who's vaping, who's having sex in the bathroom, who's trying to jump someone else between third and fourth period, and how can you stop it? You're like constantly inundated with negativity, honestly, having to search kids, having to call the police on kids, and that can take a toll. And so, going back to being clear, you need to be clear on what are the parts of your job that are draining you. And one of the things that really helped me One of the things, because there are several things that really helped me, was getting into journaling and getting into mindfulness and getting a lot of those negative feelings out of here and onto paper, or breathing them out and things of that nature. Just looking at my notes to remind myself of what I wanted to say. So I want to ask you, anyone who's watching live now, and then those of you who are watching in the future, to think about, what is burnout your main challenge? When you think about your position and you think about how you maybe don't want to be in education anymore, maybe you want to go do something else, is it because of burnout? Is that your main thing? Okay. And so moving on to the next point of this, is it, profession or location? Um, I want to share my own personal story of how it most definitely was the location, not the specific location of the school district, because I worked for a pretty good school district. The people who were running the school district, they did the best that they could do with the changing landscape of education. There's a lot for everyone at all levels to deal with. And but, again, I had spoken to people who were living abroad, teaching abroad, being administrators abroad, and they weren't having those concerns. They didn't feel like they were in an episode of CSI. They felt supported by not just administration, but by the society. Because the other thing that educators have to deal with is feeling like you're always on. You've got school as a teacher that you're dealing with during the day, but then you have all of the things that you have to grade. There's not enough time to get all of the paperwork done, to do all the things that need to be done. If you have to attend training outside of school, if you have to, chaperone dances, things of that nature, all of that is taking time away from you, and it's taking time away from your family. And as an administrator, that even goes up. And I've heard teachers say before, well, that's why you make the big bucks. And I used to hate that as an administrator, because I don't think that sometimes people understood all of the things that you were necessarily dealing with. But so when I was speaking to people who were working abroad, they weren't dealing with that. And for me, I've always known that I wanted to move abroad. This has been like 10 years in the making, which is why I try to help people not take that long to make the choice to go like I did, because you can do it now, right? You can do it now. But I waited and waited for retirement, waited for my kids to graduate from high school, waited. But as I was talking to these people, it just stayed in my mind that, hey, I could maybe be living a different way. I don't have to feel, like if you've been watching me, I've talked about my eye twitch. Like, I had a literal eye twitch from all of the stress. And I did not want to continue gaining weight. I had high blood pressure. I had the eye twitch. Like, I knew that something had to change. And so when I moved abroad, I'm currently in Southeast Asia in Brunei. I felt like a shedding of all of these old responsibilities. I felt like a shedding of all of this, negativity associated with my job, right? Associated with being in education, associated with being tired, with not having time for myself, without, having time for my family. And so for me, and I think for you too, if you consider it, going to a new location, especially if that new location is abroad, it really does offer you a new way of engaging with your job and education right now. So you meet new people, you engage in new challenges, there's new opportunities. And to give you an idea, for me, my work life balance has completely changed. So I was working, I don't know how many hours a week, working all day, and then, sometimes staying after for meetings, having to go to board meetings at night, having to go to football games, having to go up to the school for an emergency because the fire alarm went off. And where I am now, my day, I have so much time to plan, to prepare, so let me give you an example. So my day starts at 7:15ish. And on most days, I am done with my day by 2. There's 2 days a week when I'm done by 12:30. And during that time, I'm only teaching 2 days a week, I'm teaching 3 50-minute classes, and the rest of the time, I'm teaching 2 50-minute classes. And so the rest of that time is all time for me to do planning, for me to grade papers, for me to engage in professional development. I feel like I have the opportunity to re-engage with, because I was a principal, to re-engage with being the best teacher version of myself that I can because I have all of this time. And because I have all of this time during the day, to plan these amazing lessons for these kids, which I'll talk about the kids in a second. I am excited because I love to plan. Okay. But I'm excited because I have the opportunity to do all of this stuff. And then I still have time to enjoy myself and my family when I go home. And I'm sure most of you know that it's not this way everywhere in the States, right? But we hear teachers talking about it more and more. All of the discipline problems, all of the behavior problems, it's not a thing where I am. It's not a thing in a lot of places abroad. The profession is still respected, and the kids turn up ready to learn. Now, kids are kids everywhere, and so sometimes they might be a little goofy and you've got to get them back on task, but you don't have to worry about anyone cursing you out. You don't have to worry about anyone attacking you. You don't have to worry about their parents coming to blame you for whatever their kid has done during the day and blaming you for it. So it's amazing. And what that has done is that has given me more energy when I'm not at work to engage in life. Because how many of you, seriously, at the end of the day, the only thing you want to do is you want to go home and sit on the couch and do nothing and regenerate? Because that was me. I was on all day. I had to be on all day, had to be there for everyone else, but there was so much of it that I had nothing left in the tank by the time that I got home. And moving abroad has changed that. I have a social life here. I'm able to host parties and join clubs and do things outside of work happily. And that is such a change, and it has brought such joy to my life. When I see people who knew me back home, they're always like, Giovanna, you look so happy. I can tell that this is, working out. And it's true. So, in terms of what you need to do, I would suggest that perhaps if you're feeling burnout, if you're feeling like maybe I need to be doing something else, and you haven't checked out international teaching, or international counseling, because that's an option, international assistant principal, international, all of those jobs exist everywhere else. If you have not considered that, you might want to consider it. And it's not just for English teachers. There are drama teachers, there's technology teachers, every subject that we have in the States, they have somewhere else and they need teachers for it. So it's something that you may want to consider. The other thing that I would suggest you consider are a couple of questions. Okay. So think about first, what parts of your current teacher role bring you joy and which ones drain you? So I kind of talked about that a little bit. Be very specific about the things that you enjoy because it's not all bad. There are things that bring you joy. Think about those and then think about the ones that drain you and write those down. The second thing that I would ask you to reflect on is, have you ever felt differently about your teaching career in another setting or another role? Have you been in another school and you didn't feel this way? Was it the people you were working with? Was it the actual subject you were teaching? Was it administration? Was it because it was 20 years ago and you were footloose and fancy free because you were young? Like, think about all of those things and how you felt differently and try to pinpoint what it was about that that made you feel differently. And then the third thing that I would ask you to reflect on is, can you envision yourself feeling fulfilled in teaching or counseling or leading? if some things were different? Do you find yourself thinking, okay, this would be great if only, and what is that if only thing? So think about all of that. Okay. And then as you are exploring international teaching, which I really hope that you do, inevitably fear will come up because this is why people don't do it. This is why you think about it and think about it. And I'm the same. It's why it took me more than a decade to move, because you're afraid about money, you're afraid about, culture, you're afraid about leaving family, you're afraid about all of those things. And so stressing and thinking about fear can really be a barrier to you living the life that you could be living, because you do not have to be in a field, a career that is draining you of joy. Okay. You don't have to do it. There are always options. I'm proof, and all of the other people who have moved abroad and are thriving will tell you that all of them are like, I wish I would have done this a long time ago, because it's just, it's amazing. And so it's something that you definitely need to consider. And I would say don't start off trying to do everything at once, because it can be overwhelming looking at what are the options. Number one, where do I even want to go? And then what are all the ins and outs of working in an entirely different country? So start small. And one of the ways that you can start small is you can register for my upcoming challenge. My upcoming challenge is Vision to Voyage. It's a 3-day online challenge where we go through the first steps to taking that voyage abroad, where we look at your reasons why you want to leave, where we pick out a destination. At the end of the 3 days, you will have an action plan to start moving abroad, to start getting that job abroad. Okay, so it's a free challenge. It's 3 days, and it is jam packed with activities, maybe a little homework, because, I am a teacher, maybe a little homework, but everything is meant to give you what you need to push you down the road towards being able to work internationally, if that's what you are ready to do. So definitely go to my website. If you're on Instagram, you can check the link in my bio. If you're watching me on YouTube, it should be in my description, but it's also on the bottom of the screen. Just sign up for that, and we are going to get you international for sure. All right. So I think that's all I have. And thank you so much for those of you who are watching. If you have any questions, send me a message. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And if fear really is the thing that's holding you back, go to the link in my bio and download my freebie, What's Stopping You, addressing the top 5 fears that are keeping you from teaching abroad. And it may get you to the point where you're like, okay, maybe I can do this, because you definitely can do it. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you in my live next week, same time and same subject, living your life and thriving abroad. See you.